Pray Until Saturation Happens is a weekly broadcast providing testimonies and teachings that empowers the church to develop a lifestyle of prayer that impacts everything for God's glory. Now, here's your host for this week's broadcast. Welcome to P.U.S.H, an outreach of Colorado Praise, the One Church initiative. I'm Amy Everett, and I'm excited today to introduce you to Pastor Michael Walker from Church in the City, Beth Abraham.
Yes, good to be here, Amy.
Right in the center of downtown Denver. Yeah, glad you are here.
Well, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, we're going to talk about prayer and outreach, because you guys do a lot of things in the downtown area that are very beneficial to the community. So first, tell everybody about Church in the City and Beth Abraham. You talked about having a unique DNA, a foundational DNA. Tell us about that.
Well, several years before we ever started the church, like in the early 80s, we had a small group where we would do Bible studies about ministry to the poor. We would pray about ministry to the poor, and then someone had an amazing word of knowledge. Why don't we do something?
Go do something about it.
Oh, wow. What do you do? So we went out and made 200 bologna sandwiches and go downtown and find out where the poor are and feed them a sandwich. And then God really put on our hearts, we really need to do something more. Go where people are, stop, let them come, pray for them. And we were just seeing God moving on people, but we were meeting a need for just a few minutes. Someone's hungry or had a prayer request, and then finally God said, you need to stop coming back and forth. We started going into different places and bringing the church to the people that weren't going to church. Right. Homeless shelters, rehabs, Christian coffee houses, 3 or 4 services a week, and seeing people come to the Lord and hoping others would raise them up, but it wasn't happening. And
the discipling wasn't happening.
Yeah, we were catching them, but we thought someone else would clean them, take care of them, raise them up, and it wasn't happening. And God said, you need to raise your own kids. Basically spiritual kids. You need to stop coming in 3 or 4 times a week doing services all over and start a church in the city.
Okay, so that's even how it's got the name, start a church in the city.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like the right thing to do. God was very clear on that, but we didn't know what to do, so we started praying. A friend of ours gave us a little storefront on Colfax next to the tattoo parlor, the S&M shop, the bar, and we were right in the middle of it. And we were just praying. Once a month, we'd inquire of the Lord, what do you want us to do? What is this to look like? And then every 2 weeks, and more people would come to this little storefront.
Now that's an interesting part of your DNA. Every month you would spend time inquiring of the Lord, what do you want us to do next? That's fascinating.
Yeah, and then it went to every 2 weeks, and then it went to every week. We weren't starting a church. We were just praying and seeking God and wanting Him to be the one to bring it about and not just some need that was out there. Right.
So what does Church in the City, Beth Abraham, look like today, and how you meet the needs in the city?
Well, we took that, and when we started a church at the old Safeway store, we had already a following of people because we were plowing the ground for years.
Right.
People think you just go in and start a church, and then people come to you. But you've got to go in there and reach out and plow the ground, and people got to get to know who you are before you can ever open the doors and
build up some trust.
Yeah. So we began opening the doors and began having people come to the church and still reach out to the poor, the oppressed, and the needy, and always had a heart. Isaiah 58, verses 6 through 12. Matthew 25, for the least of these. Luke 4:18, to preach good news to the poor, set at liberty those who are captive, bind up the broken hearts. And that was always the DNA that Church in the City was launched with.
So you've seen a lot of, I would imagine, healings, a lot of broken hearts healed, a lot of lives restored. Is there a testimony you'd like to share?
Yeah, actually there is. Floyd Ridley. He was a man that was living in a dumpster right next to the church for several years. And we got to pray with him. And I always heard, don't lay hands too quickly. You know, someone gives their life to the Lord and they had this amazing change. And then you put them out in front of everyone and they can't handle the pressure. And so that's what happened with Floyd. And he wound up giving his life to the Lord and then falling back. And then we kept ministering to him. And then I never heard from him again in the 90s. About 2 years ago, I got a newspaper article from a newspaper in Kentucky. And as it turned out, Floyd Ridley became a top speaker in Kentucky and won the Kentucky Colonel Award.
Oh my.
That Ronald Reagan, Winston Churchill, and now Floyd Ridley
won
that. So you never know what is going to happen in someone's life. Sometimes you never get to see it. You know, we're talking about 20 years later, all of a sudden I see the fruit of this man's life, and now he's like a key speaker and asked to speak to those that are struggling all over.
That ties in with the philosophy that it's important to minister to the one in front of you, because when you're ministering to the one in front of you, you really are ministering to the nations.
Amen.
Because you don't know where that person is going to go and who they're going to impact. That's a good testimony for that. That's powerful.
Yeah, I was totally blessed when I heard about that.
Wow.
A dumpster to the Kentucky Colonel, top award in the whole state.
Wow. So you're also part of, or you are the Somebody Cares Denver connecting point. Tell our listeners our audience what that looks like.
Well, we've been a ministry that likes to partner with other ministries. So we have over 25 ministries that work with us in the city. We have an Indonesian church, a Sudanese church, a Hispanic church that work with us at church in the city. We work with Christ Body Ministries, Whiz Kids. There are a number of ministries that we kind of are the covering for and ministry to. So it's more of a partnership and outreach. We did things with Dave Wilkerson's ministry over the summers, and with Confluence Ministry. We just did an outreach with them during the Martin Luther King March, where we had hundreds of people after the march come, be fed, ministered to, prayed for, and so on. So our heart has always been collaborative ministry efforts to partner with other ministries as well. And Denver, Somebody Cares Denver is kind of a blanket oversight for those type of partnerships.
Okay. So it's all about helping to restore lives or rebuilding lives of individuals.
Yeah, wherever we can do that. We have a group that meets the people that have brain damage and that meet at the church.